Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Dear Future Pioneers podcast. I'm your host, Carissa Munoz. Now, for my friends that watch the video component of this series, you probably have a question that my audio friends do not have, and that is, Carissa, why are you sitting alone? Because every single one of your episodes that has been informational, you've had guests. Never fear. They're coming. However, today's episode is going to be a little different than the ones that we have done before, where we have me and our guests right from the beginning, from the get-go, all the way through the end. Today's episode is all about athletics. And at Sacred Heart, we have a lot of athletics to choose from. And in order to cover them all correctly, I wanted to give them their own devoted time and give people, if they want to learn about one specific type of athletic, they can watch that portion of the video or listen to that portion of the podcast. Or, if you want to just focus in on one thing versus trying to figure out like what level we're talking about, that's why it's split up the way that it is. So today's segment is going to have 3 different portions and 2 different guests. So at Sacred Heart, we have 3 types of athletics, 3 levels of athletics, if you will, and that is divisional, club, and intramural. So according to the Sacred Heart website, Sacred Heart has 33 NCAA Division I athletics teams, 39 intercollegiate club sports teams, and an intramural program that offers a variety of sports with different seasons. So it really gives students here at Sacred Heart an option and an opportunity to play a sport, whether they've been doing it their whole life and they want to play at a collegiate high divisional level. If, they've played a sport for a really long time, but they don't want it to be as big of a time commitment as it is, they have the club option, but if you still want a competitive level. And then you have the intramural level, which is really an opportunity to still play a sport that you love with friends or with peers, or you get to try something new. So we're going to be talking about that in today's episode, and we're going to be hearing from a D1 student, and we're going to be hearing from a club sports student to give their different perspectives on their experiences that they've had while they're at Sacred Heart. And then once those 2 are done, we're going to come back to me, and we're going to just do a little overview of the intramural program for anybody that's interested or wants to learn more. So before we get started with our Division I athlete, just going to do a little disclaimer before we start. So, as I just said, there's a lot of different teams that are available for students to come and play for, to sign up for, and, every sport is going to be different. For this episode and for, the availability of students who offer to help me, we're going to be covering one sport today, and that's going to be soccer. And, these 2 athletes that come onto the show may have one experience, but you can ask somebody else who's on a different team and they might have a completely different experience, which I think is a really beautiful thing because, not everybody's experience is going to be the same thing as with everything. So just take this episode with an open mind and kind of gauge it from an athlete's perspective versus a perspective on their, specific sport. So without further ado, let's get started and dive in with our Division I athlete. So we're going to start with Division I athletics first, and today I'm joined with Mia. So thank you so much for being here with me today. Do you want to introduce yourself first before we get started?
Sure. So my name is Mia Sansanelli. I am a senior on the women's soccer team here, and I'm excited to get started.
Yay! Yes. So as a D1 athlete, I'm sure your college career surrounds your experience in your sport pretty much entirely, but we'll learn more about that throughout the episode, and we'll get into different areas of how that being a part of your college experience and how you've kind of expanded upon it as well.
For sure.
So the first thing I want to talk to you about is, let's go back to the beginning, pre-college, surrounding your sport. So when did you know you wanted to play at a divisional level for your sport, kind of going through high school? What did that process look like for you?
Sure. So with any child, you usually throw them into soccer. That's like the one sport everybody plays. And I was just lucky enough that I really fell in love with it. I played many other sports. I was probably better at some of those other sports, but for some reason, soccer just stuck with me, and I knew that was my thing. Growing up, getting better, getting into more competitive leagues, I knew I wanted to play in college, probably from the time I was in middle school. And I knew that if I wanted to do that, I had to take my career seriously. So I had to move away from my hometown club and throw myself into more travel, high high competition club to get myself in a spot to be recruited and to get myself to a level where I'm training consistently and could see myself at a collegiate level. So should I go into my recruitment process a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So, I mean, I started getting recruited, I guess, starting freshman year.
Okay.
College coaches can't talk to you until you're a sophomore. Rules have changed since I got recruited, but so I was reaching out to coaches, sending them my schedule, sending them who I was, why I liked their school. I was visiting schools, probably starting from the time I was 15, 16, taking it seriously. But I actually didn't find Sacred Heart until the end of my junior year. So I played for a few different club teams. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go. My mind kept changing. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to play soccer, and I knew I wanted to do it at the highest level that I was able to do. And playing at Division I is not easy. I mean, a lot of people don't do it. I didn't think I was going to end up there for a while. And thankfully, I came here. I came to a few clinics. I took a tour of the school. I just fell in love with everything about it, the location, the campus, the facilities it provided me for my intended career, and just being able to play soccer. And I was offered that roster spot during the first week of my senior year. It kind of just all fell into place. And I knew I was going to have to work hard to make a name for myself on the team. I knew I was going to have to work hard to create my own identity here. And, thinking about when I was a senior in high school versus senior now, I'm a totally different person. And soccer has definitely shaped me into that person.
Yeah. 4 years, it seems like such a small number. But when you think about it from where we are now, from you just said, for where we were as seniors, it's such a large, drastic difference. And I don't even think senior year in high school me would recognize senior in college me at all.
No, I think I'm completely different, but in a good way.
That's great. Yeah. Honestly, like you said, a lot of people, when it comes to collegiate sports, I think everybody, if you're really dedicated to that sport and the way that you talked about your process, you showed dedication from the start. You knew if you wanted to do it, you wanted to do it the best way that you could, best place that you could. And there are a lot of different leagues when it comes to it. Was Sacred Heart I know you found them a little bit later on in your journey, but was Sacred Heart one of those schools that stood out when it comes to D1 sports in a way? What was appealing about Sacred Heart when it comes to the athletics here?
Sure. So I had to come to the school to make a name for myself. Usually, coaches might come to your tournaments, they might meet with you separately, but this was just a situation where coaches had turned over and my schedule didn't line up with them. So I was like, if I want to come here, I'm gonna have to put in the work myself, which isn't uncommon. So I came here. First time I saw the school, it's absolutely beautiful. I played on their field. I loved it. I just loved the feel of playing there. I liked the vibe that the coaches gave off. I got to meet the team. And I actually came during their preseason, and I saw all the girls literally sleeping in the Martiri building in between sessions. They were so exhausted. And my parents were looking at me this is going to be your life. Are you sure you want to do this? And I just knew I wanted to. I knew that the exhaustion and the work, it was just all worth it because you got to be part of a team like that did it together. And that's something that I really appreciate, is how I've been able to participate in building up the team culture here, and how I might have not known it was before I was here, but I knew that when I came here, I wanted to make it be a part of a team that people wanted to come back to. And I think I've accomplished that with my teammates. I think we've only grown. I mean, record-wise, we have grown as a team. We've gotten better and better every year I've been here. And just from the start coming to Sacred Heart, I knew that if I was coming here, I was not going to give up on soccer, no matter how hard it was. So many people don't make it through all 4 years of collegiate sports because it's hard. And especially at the Division I level, that's, especially if you're not playing, which I wasn't when I came here, it's really discouraging. But I just knew that this was something that I had to see through, and something that, since I fell in love with it as a junior and as a senior, I knew it's something I wanted to look back and appreciate as a junior and a senior now.
Yeah. Having that team environment too, coming in as a freshman, starting on the team and having somewhere to rely on through those entering weeks of starting college. For soccer, did you have to come early and do preseason and along those lines?
Yeah, definitely. That's also something that was really appealing about playing a fall sport, is that you get to come during the first week of August. So, I came to campus a few times. When I came here in August of 2019, I had been to campus in months. I didn't know where anything was. And the good thing is nobody else is here besides you in football. So you can kind of walk around, you can get your bearings, you get to learn the campus, you get to learn where all of the places you need to be are. So by the time class rolls around last week of August, you're a pro. You know everything. That was really appealing to me. It was really appealing to make those bonds with your team while you had the time, while you were just doing things together all the time. Our first away trip was to Vermont. Like that gave us a lot of opportunity to get to know each other. And yeah, I think it was kind of like when people do pre-fall programs, it just gets them adjusted to college living a little bit earlier. And I feel like that was a really good privilege to have.
Yeah. I mean, when I did FYE for the years that I was eligible to do it, a lot of the students that I talked to that were on a sports team, they, you ask the question, you're like, how are you adjusting? Like, is there anything you need? And they're all like, honestly, like I've been here since the first week of August and I could tell you where everything is. Like I was a senior. I'm like, I'm great. I'm happy that you're adjusting that way, but that, it builds a sense of community outside of your year. And just like you said, it gives you time to get adjusted and know what you want to do. Something that stuck with me that you said when you came in and you saw like the team sleeping in Martyri, that gives you such like a nice inside look of like what your life would look like your parents said. And for people that don't know what like a divisional like sport kind of lifestyle looks like inside of college, how would you kind of describe how like an average week for you looks like? That could be, I know it probably changes whether you're in season or out of season, but what would you say that kind of looks like?
So it's actually interesting you bring that up because for my senior project, I'm actually doing a digital magazine about the reality of being a student athlete. And I go into kind of like what the lifestyle looks like. Okay. So I've actually spent a lot of time working on that part and kind of reflecting. So you're ready. Yeah, reflecting on my 4 years here. So, I mean, it's been slightly different every year, but I would say typically in season, well, preseason first. Let's start with preseason. Okay. So you have to come early. Your first day, you do all of your compliance, you do concussion testing, they do your physical, they see that you're up to date, you meet the team, you get your gear, which is the best part.
Isn't that
Adidas
like,
Christmas in July.
Yes. That.
And then you start with 2-a-day sessions, then you have about 2 scrimmages, and then you go right into your season play about second to third week of August. So you kind of start your season then, and you don't end until about beginning mid-November. So during those months, you practice or have competition for 6 days, you're off for 1, as mandated by the NCAA. During those days, you have a limited amount of hours in the fall, you have a lot more hours to fill in the fall rather than the spring, which is your off season. So during the fall, we usually lift 2 to 3 times a week, and we practice or compete the other 6 days. And the off day is a complete off day. So you just have time to rest, recover, whatnot. If you're like me and you've had to battle some injuries throughout your time here, then you also have to make a lot of time for treatment. And then when you're a freshman or you have less than a certain number GPA, you also have to do study hall hours. So as an underclassman, you really had a big commitment to the team on top of those study hall hours. And if you're injured, that's treatment hours. On top of everything else you have to do, traveling takes time, all of that. During the winter, you have a winter packet, but you don't have to stay on campus. And then for spring, the hours are much less of a commitment, but you still are training all of January, February, March, April. So we have 5 days for competition we're allowed for in the spring. So that starts March 31st, and we have 5 allotted days to scrimmage other schools, all different divisions. But for the spring, we usually lift 3 to 4 times a week and practice the other days with our weekends off for the most part. So spring's a lot chiller in a sense, but it's usually your harder workouts because you don't have to worry about being tired for a game on the weekend.
Right, right. Yeah, that sounds like it does add a lot into your schedule already. And it even depends on sports. Like I know that you have, personal hands-on experience with one sport, but any friends that you have in other D1 sports, does it look kind of similar, that layout, or do they have like football, for example, like that's huge in the fall? Do they have anything additional that needs to be done, or does it kind of follow the same guidelines?
I feel like it's pretty similar, at least speaking from fall sports. Football's kind of an exception because they have summer workouts as well as basketball. So like those teams have an even bigger commitment where they have to come for the summer and train on campus. Similar with some winter sports, their schedule's a little bit different because they play in both semesters. So like their off season is kind of the summer, but then they have to stay throughout the winter break. So everyone's a little bit different. I mean, we have to come a little bit earlier in the summer. Some people have to stay through May. So it kind of depends on where your season is. But the winter sports, I think, get the most of it because they have to stay all winter. And basketball itself already has to come in the summer. So they probably have the biggest commitment.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people, maybe if they're looking to play like a higher level in college, like stray away from if they're not wholeheartedly into it, but they're like, I want this experience, but I don't know if I want to dedicate all of this time to it. But I think for the people that like yourself that want to go full-heartedly into it, it's very rewarding because you have a lot of opportunities that allows you to kind of put your best foot forward in your sport and get the most out of it, because it is most of your college experience, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm dancing around the lines of that, because I've never played a Division I sport, and I praise you for it, because I don't know if I could do that with my schedule or just the things that I prioritize. But, you know, on top of that, just being that it takes up a lot of your schedule. For those of you who don't know Mia, she is my idol, because she has the most efficient time management that I have ever seen in my life. And you do so much and have so many leadership roles. So kind of going on top of that, knowing, you know, the commitment that you were coming into being a D1 athlete, how did you take the schedule that you were given with your sport and academics and still find, you know, the ability to go out into campus and join other opportunities? You want to talk about your leadership roles here? Because I know you got a lot. So
sure. So, I mean, absolutely. It is a majority of your time here, but from the way I look at it, it doesn't have to be the only thing you do here. And I think it's what a lot of athletes feel. They say, oh, I can't do this because I play this sport. I have to do this. I have training. I have lift. I have practice. I have games. And like all of that is very valid. It's very time consuming. And honestly, sometimes you feel like you can't breathe because that is literally all you do. But of course you do it because you love it. As I said before, I'm a completely different person from 4 years ago. Even as a freshman, I mean, I honestly wish I could show this, like your whole series, to myself as a freshman, because I did not want to try other things. I said, I'm here for soccer. I made this commitment. I have to put my best foot forward, especially coming in as a freshman and not getting the time you want. You're like, oh my gosh, I have to dedicate all my time to getting even better, to put myself in an opportunity to help the team on the field. So I think especially when you're in a situation when you get here and you're not the star anymore, because, you know, everyone who's a Division I athlete was a star. Like that's why you're here. And then you get here and you're a little bit humble. And you're like, oh, I'm not the only really good person here anymore. Everyone's really good. And maybe I'm not as good as them. And all of these feelings of, am I in the right spot? Is this what I really want to dedicate my time to? Should I keep going? Should I change my situation? I mean, for me, I knew I wanted to be here. I knew I wanted to make it work. And I knew that I could make it work. And I knew that with time, things would get better. Even though in the moment you don't think it'll get better, I knew it would in time. And I think because of the situation I was in, and because soccer was consuming so much of my time and not always in the best way, I wanted to find other outlets so that I don't only think about everything I'm doing isn't working out right now. And that's not the easiest thing, because it is so time consuming. And I was too afraid to like join clubs like the first semester. Like I was like, I don't have time for this. And then as I got into the spring, I saw that the newspaper was recruiting people, and I said, oh, that seems like a really good idea. Like I love to write. I'm a sports communications major. Maybe I'll look into it. And thankfully, Professor 𝚑𝚌𝚗𝚗 got me on as a copy editor. And then, you know, I'm editor-in-chief now. So it kind of spiraled in a good direction. And then similar with some other things. I mean, especially during COVID, they were sending out applications for Heart to Heart ambassadors, which is the mental health advocacy group for athletes. And I said, well, that's something I'm really passionate about. My mental health has significantly been affected by my sport. I think that's something I want to be a part of. And that worked out. And then as you get older and you get more accustomed to the people in your major, and if you really buy into your major and the people you work with and the professors you have and everything that's accessible to you, and you really take advantage of it, then these opportunities just keep coming to you, and it's just your job to fulfill them. I mean, obviously I can't do everything I always wanted because I have this commitment as an athlete, but I think it's kind of empowering to know that I can do these things and still make time for my sport and have that as a priority, but also have other things as a priority. I think everyone says, I could never do that. I have too many other things to do. And it's like, everyone has things to do. It's really just, once you establish your time management, it doesn't seem impossible. It just seems like this is the schedule. Like this is what you do and you get it done and everything works out. Sometimes it won't work out. And, you know, learning to deal with failure is also something I've learned over the past 4 years. But I just think, even if you don't think you have the time for everything, I think trying is the most important thing. So I know this is all about like advice. I wish I could have tried more things when I was a freshman. I wish I wasn't so afraid to fail at things when I was an underclassman. And like, because literally when you fail, you're the only person that really cares. Nobody's like, oh, wow, they failed. They failed. No, people know that you're making progress, and progress only comes from failure. So I wish I knew that earlier, because maybe I could do even more. You know, maybe I could have set the bar even higher. And I'm really proud of everything I've accomplished and everything I'm able to do on a daily basis. And I don't feel like I'm an anomaly. I know I I'm like pointed out as one right now because I do so many things, but like so many people do this. So many people do have so many leadership roles and leave their impact in the university and do so many things in so many different organizations and clubs. And it's really impressive. And I feel like people don't understand that they are capable of that too. So time management is obviously super important, but doing things you're passionate about, I would say, like, if you're passionate about something, don't make an excuse not to do it. Make an excuse to try. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But most of the time, you'll find a way to make it work.
That was beautifully said. Thank you.
You.
I feel like that's such a big part too, especially like when you come into a new environment, whether, it doesn't matter what you want to do. I think a lot of people are scared to fail. And that is such a realistic thing that happens in a lot of people's lives. Like terrified to fail. Like growing up, I think I've gotten a lot used to it because I've had things that I wanted to do and failed from them. But you're right. Like I'm the only one that really was like, oh, I failed. Like, I don't feel great about myself. But other people, I feel like if they watch me fail, it's like, I'm proud of you for putting yourself out there because you just put yourself, isn't it the quote that I'm going to butcher? It's like, it's not, failure is just a step in the next direction or the right direction. But even being able to kind of put yourself out there and like you said, having a commitment, like you are an athlete, but that's not the only thing that you are. Like you're a student, you're an athlete, it's part of your identity. And then, you took it upon yourself to go out there and make more of your identity here at Sacred Heart. And there are so many people who do athletics or do like take their organization, the thing that they're involved in and like do it wholeheartedly. And yes, it does take up a lot of their time, but it's like, okay, I'm loving this. Like, what more can I do? And I feel like I'm so glad that, you're able to come on here and share, like, I wish that I'd done things more earlier and not have been afraid having this huge commitment. Like, it's there and you're taking priority with it, but it doesn't have to like control your ability to do other things. Cause there are so many students like that I've talked to, especially when we were younger, like, no, I'm in a sport. Like, I don't think it's going to work. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my academics. So it's nice to see like from a senior's perspective, like it worked out, it worked out. I'm here. I got to do all these things, met so many people and all that jazz. Do you think that like, this could be specific to your team or even athletics in general. Do you think that the D1, coaches and staff, like they do encourage you to do more than your sport? Like, I know, of course, like they want you to be ready, available, healthy, like all the time. But do you think that they kind of encourage students to look out and do some other things?
Sure. So I think the athletics department as a whole, yes. I think the faculty and staff that work in like athletic support, they are very encouraging of that. And I think the rest is really dependent on your coach. Because I think I've heard some people's experiences where like they need them 24/7. If practice is canceled, you better be missing class. Like you better make this work because this is your first commitment. Thankfully, I have a coach that is very supportive of putting academics first. If you have class, no problem. We understand you can't be there. You have clinical, of course. That's for your nursing degree. Like he is very understanding of putting school first. And he always wants your academics to be in check before you're able to compete because competing is a privilege. It's something that we're lucky to do. And there's a reason that athlete is second. And I think my coach specifically, he's been very helpful of adjusting people's schedules. And he knows that we have a life and he wants us to do things outside of college. Like don't make like soccer should be your life, but not the only thing in your life. I think he's been really supportive and he knows everything that I do. And I've been able to make it work. And I think it makes him happy to see that people are taking advantage of the opportunities the school provides us. I mean, he came to the school because he loved the school and what it gave us and the opportunities and the location and everything. So I think it's really rewarding for coaches to see that, especially one like mine. And I think there's unfortunately situations where coaches don't feel the same way. I think it's also up to you to, even if your coach doesn't think that way, show them how successful you've been in contributing to the university and giving back in certain ways. And maybe you'll change their mind. Maybe you'll say, oh, well, it's actually really good that my athletes are not just known as the soccer players or something like that.
Yeah, thanks. That's great. I know I feel like it does. It varies on coach, on school, all these things. But it's nice to see, students take advantage of everything they're given and still put the responsibilities that they came for and like they know that they're doing like first and, give time where time is needed. Kind of going off of that, and you probably covered it a little bit when talking about all the things that you're involved in. How do you think that being a D1 athlete and having these other commitments outside of academics kind of has impacted your career at Sacred Heart socially? So having the ability to also, make time for other involvements, but still having that commitment like on the back burner.
Sure. So I think being an athlete, first and foremost, you tell when your mom's talking about like, oh, my daughter's playing here. Oh my gosh, that's so great. They have built-in friends. Like that's always like the first thought, like, which is true. You come in and I had like 40 best friends, like automatically. So that's really nice from that social aspect that you have people and those people know people and those people live with other athletes and those people, you go to athletic social things and you learn different people and get to meet them that way. And you have similar lifestyles and opinions and, you go through the same type of lifestyle. I think from a social aspect, that's really great. I think it also can limit your social ability because, of course, you have a lot of travel. You have strict 24 and 48-hour rules. You can't go out during your season. You have 6 a.m. practices and whatnot. And I think from that perspective, it might limit you. I think as far as social, like on campus, I think it's really cool when you see athletes getting involved and being really passionate about other things because I'm like, oh yeah, that's me too. Like you don't just have to be an athlete because there's too many people that think, again, they can only be an athlete. You don't have time for anything else. And I think one of the groups I'm most happy to be a part of is a student ambassador because you get to, the whole point is to share your story. And you get to meet people that are literally involved in everything and anything on campus because that's the point. They're recruiting the next year of ambassadors and they come from a variety of different backgrounds and places and transfers and grads, everything. And I think it's really cool getting to share with them. And I've met so many people through that program, hearing what they've done. And there are some fellow athletes and some fellow club athletes and intramural athletes, and you get to hear their experience and what they've been able to do. And you also get to encourage the next group of pioneers, like, hey, you can do this and more. Some people say, oh, I want to play, but I don't know if I want the commitment. Or some people say, I know I want to do this, but like, what is your life like? What are the requirements? How do people help you if you need help? And I think it's really rewarding to show people that you've been able to make this your home kind of, and you've gotten to make a social impact while you're here and then giving it back to those people that you give tours to. It just makes it better.
Yeah. And I'm sure people that like have been on the fence about even like being an athlete at any sort of level and like having you and other ambassadors who have that experience, like just seeing that and being like, okay, this person, they're doing fine. And they do this, like this is a huge time commitment. But yeah, I think I also love that the ambassadors are made up of such like a unique and diverse kind of group with their involvements and experiences, which is really cool. So another thing that I kind of want to talk about within being a part of athletics here is like, there are a lot of benefits. I'm sure that you've gotten through it, whether it be, personal growth or just anything within the school academically. What do you think your favorite part of being involved as a D1 athlete at Sacred Heart has been?
Well, that's a really hard question.
I know it's a very large question. It's hard to pinpoint one.
I think my favorite part is how it's transformed me as a person. And I think I've just been reflecting so much of my experience through like my work on my senior project and just like graduation being in 2 months in general. I think my favorite part is that, as I said, I wasn't always in a great spot with athletics when I got here. And I've been able to do like a complete turnaround. And through my experience with everything else in the school and seeing opportunities and believing in myself and progressing in so many aspects of life, I feel like it's come full circle and I've gotten to a point that I want to be. And it just feels like bliss now. Like, it just feels like I'm where I'm supposed to be. That feeling where you're just like, yeah, like this is right. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. You get that deja vu and you're like, everything's working out the way it's supposed to be. And like through failure and through trying different things and through the 4 years, you've found yourself in a spot that like you knew you belonged at. And I feel like that's the best part. I feel like our team is in a good place. Like it's the best it's been, like teammate to teammate wise. It's the best we've been success wise. I think that can't happen unless people let themselves grow. And I think people come in here and they play the way they play and they think the way they think, and everyone's from different states and different clubs and different everything. And I think when you like really allow yourself to learn from other people and gain perspective and like really, really let yourself grow as you're supposed to, like don't stop it. Like some people think change is bad. They don't want to change. They don't want to change who they are as a person, a player, a teammate, anything. When you let that happen, and it might not always be smooth, I feel like that's the best part. Like, I don't think I'd be the person I am without being a soccer player here. I might still be a different person, probably not the person I am now, but I think the best part is seeing yourself grow and also seeing your team grow. And like during my senior day, I remember just looking around and being like, wow, like I've like grown up with these people. It's been 4 years. Like it wasn't that long, but you just see people differently and you don't think anyone would recognize themselves 4 years ago, but in the best way.
Yeah, that's great. So kind of winding down a little bit within the experience. Thank you for sharing all that you have today. And of course, this entire episode and the series has been based on advice. So do you have any like specific hard-hitting advice that for students who maybe they want to try D1 athletics, whether it be here or maybe it's somewhere else, or even just like wanting to try a sport in general, what advice would you give them?
I guess 2 things. I would say believe in yourself. Okay, 3 things. Believe in yourself. Don't give up so easily. And think of the bigger picture. I wish I believed in myself more. I definitely have way more confidence than I did coming in so many aspects of life. So I think, there's so many people saying like, you obviously can't do that. I can't tell you how many coaches were like, yeah, you're definitely like D3 level at best. Like, are you really going to play? And obviously proving them wrong feels great. Believing in yourself, don't give up so easy. Not everyone's going to play. The roster is so big on every team. Someone's not going to play. It's just how it works out. Doesn't mean you won't ever play. Doesn't mean you can't put yourself in a better situation, whether it's here or at another school. But I think it feels like the end of the world when you're 18 and like things are not going the way you want to. And that leads you to the bigger picture. Like the bigger picture is you're here to get a degree. You're here to have the best 4 years of your life, and that doesn't mean best, everything goes perfect, but the best, it'll allow you to grow. It'll allow you to learn things about yourself, study academically, have new experiences, travel, everything. Just don't worry about those practices where you're struggling or, you're struggling to get recruited at the second, or you don't know if you'll play when you come in at 18-year-old at a huge university. I just think you need to think of the bigger picture and of you are as a person, and just remember that there's more to life than what's stressing you out right now.
Amen to that. All right. Well, thank you, Mia. I really appreciate your time and your words today. Again, Mia is just, one of the many, many athletes we have on this campus. So if you're interested in looking up a specific sport or information about a specific team, each team has their own social accounts. Like I know Instagram is really big for finding, that nice personal information. But we have the main social account on Instagram for D1 Athletics is at @ShoeBigRed. And then if you want to find, the website that Sacred Heart has for athletics, it's www.sacredheartpioneers.com online. So now that we've gone over the D1 athletics, we're going to dive into the next athletic involvement, which is club sports. Okay, for club sports, we're here with Gianna for the next part of this episode. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, can you introduce yourself for the viewers?
My name is Gianna. I'm a senior exercise science major pursuing physical therapy. I'm from Ellington, Connecticut, and I'm on the women's club soccer team here.
Yeah, great. So fun fact, Gianna and I have been teammates for the entirety of 4 years?
Yes.
That sounds like a very long and also short time, but also long in the sense of being a freshman to senior.
Right.
For our entire time at SHU, and she's a heck of an athlete. So let me tell you that. So before we kind of dive into your experience here, I wanted to touch upon your experience before coming to college, before pursuing kind of like a club sport athletic within your career here. So before Sacred Heart, what sports did you play growing up, and kind of what did that look like in your career at home?
So my family is a very athletic family. I have 2 sisters, and we basically grew up playing sports, all different kinds. We started with like gymnastics, horseback riding, ice skating. So it was just like a lot. But primarily, I grew up playing soccer and basketball. But I wasn't too great at basketball, so my primary sport is soccer, and I started that when I was 6 years old, and I just kept going on with it ever since. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And when you're looking into colleges, I know that, for us growing up, a lot of people will pursue like a sport in high school, and it's just their sport that they do in high school. Like
right.
For me, like I did lacrosse in high school, but I never picked up my lacrosse stick outside of high school.
Yeah.
So when you were coming to college, did you know, which sport you wanted to continue, or kind of what did it look like within your sport experience in high school? And how did you think you were going to expand upon that when you came into college? So what was like the process of, do I want to continue my sport or do I not?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, soccer is my primary sport. I played Premier, I played rec when I was little, and I played all throughout high school. So I also played basketball in high school, but that was just for 2 years. So I knew I didn't really want to like pursue that in the college environment. So I definitely knew I wanted to stick with soccer. And I guess the biggest thing about choosing club sports was my major and my like what I was going to school for, just because I knew like, all right, I want to stay school focused, but I also don't want to give up on a sport that I like grew up loving. So I was like, all right, like I'm going to check out club. And it's been absolutely phenomenal, and it's a great balance, and I have a social and school life and can keep doing something that I love. So yeah, that's kind of just where my thought process was when I was a freshman coming in. I just knew like I didn't want to give up on something I love because I just wanted to keep going with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I mean, I had a very similar experience, like growing up playing soccer, having that be my pretty much my entire identity growing up. Like it was always like, oh, I have soccer. Like can't go to this. Sorry, soccer. Oh, have practice.
Yep.
So, coming out of high school, like I wasn't ready to hang
let
up
it go.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to let it go.
I just still don't want to let it go. The fact that
me either.
we're not going to think about that.
It's crazy.
Anyways, coming into like college, like you said, like I don't want to give it up, but like I don't know if I'm in the space to give it like a huge portion of my life when I'm also wanting to do academics, like focus on it for like, that's why I'm here. I'm doing my academics.
Exactly.
And like I was telling Mia before, I literally praise everybody that comes here and is a D1 athlete, even like any individual athlete, like giving that huge time commitment and also doing, their academics, because I just don't think that I would have done very well with that.
Right.
That's just me. But like being able to come to a school like Sacred Heart and have like the club programs available for anybody to kind of get involved, that's really cool.
It is cool.
I know for me, and like I'll talk about it a little bit, but when you were looking at colleges, was being in a club sport or being in like in a competitive environment for club sports something that you were looking for when you were looking at colleges, or was that kind of like something that you would just get involved in like once you got to the school of your choice?
Yeah, no, it definitely was something that I was looking for when I toured a bunch of colleges. That's actually why I fell in love with Sacred Heart, especially because I saw like the 𝚊𝚏𝚗𝚡 Center, and I was like, oh wow, like this is for the general public as well. But I mean, in the basement, they have everything for the club athletes. And I was like, wow, that's actually fantastic. Like, I thought it was pretty cool that like club athletes can have their own athletic trainers who are absolutely incredible. And I was like, you know what? I want to go to a sports school and I want to participate in soccer and like actually feel like you're, obviously it's nothing compared to the D1 athletes, but like you still want the same level of like competitiveness and like seriousness as it goes into it, which it definitely is here. But I just remember going to a few schools that I was touring before I even saw Sacred Heart. And one of the biggest things that I just like checked off was like, I don't see any athletic fields, or like they didn't really bring up any club sports or anything like that. So I was like, you know what, like I want to go to a more athletic school where like I can just keep that like passion that I have for soccer. And yeah, I just found it here at Sacred Heart, and it's been pretty awesome, I could say. So
yeah, I mean, I had a very similar experience. I can't even take credit for finding Sacred Heart on my own.
I can't either, yeah.
That was all my mother. And honestly, because of club sports, is this like the same trajectory? Wow, we're living the same life.
Yeah, literally the same thing. My mom, she actually made me tour this school. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then ended up being my number one. I absolutely fell in love with it. So I was like, all right, Mom, you have good taste, I'll say.
They know.
Yeah, they know.
But like the way that Sacred Heart presents their club program is honestly, like you said, and unlike anything that I've really ever seen or gotten from like another school. Because you have schools that like have them, not like the more popular sports, but like the sports that it's easier to compete with like or scrimmage against other schools with.
Right.
But again, like didn't have the facilities really for it, or like the facilities where you felt like you were an athlete and not just like, oh, we have this club program for you because like you want to play, like here you go.
Right, exactly.
So like having that here is really exciting. That's so funny. I didn't know that we had literally the
Yeah, we're-
same life when it comes to that.
Yeah, we're pretty similar here.
We are.
That's funny.
So when, and we were both the same age and had the same kind of getting into, I guess, stuff here at school because, like we lived through the time of COVID being here. So everyone else's experience is a little bit different. We've seen seasons, like all other sports have seen seasons that are nothing that we're used to.
Right.
So when you came, take me through when you came into SHU in 2019, kind of going to those informational meetings that they had for clubs because they have like, I know, doesn't it feel like a lifetime ago?
Like a lifetime ago.
Oh my gosh. They have, so side note, our club sports will hold like interest meetings. So, if you're taking club soccer, like specifically, they'll post out like, hey, interest meeting for club soccer, this time, this place, come meet, the coach, or you could come meet the people who were involved with club sports and just like get your questions answered. So kind of going around, did you like go to the basketball table or you were just like, nah, I'm just going to do soccer?
Yeah, I kind of just passed the basketball table.
It's okay. Leave it in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I had some thought about it, but I mean, I just really had such a passion for soccer. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick with soccer. It's something I like. I liked basketball, but not as much as soccer, I would say. So definitely just beelined right for the soccer table.
Direct, all attention, all focus there. How do you feel that like the way that they presented the program and like how our season kind of looked to be laid out? Like what did that like predict? Like how did you see like the season or your experience going based on like the information they gave us beforehand? Because I know for me, I was like really excited because I was like, okay, like I'm coming from a very competitive level that, I've played and it's been a really big part of my life and I get to still continue that because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, it was pretty similar. I mean, obviously I was like coming in really nervous because I was like, all right, like I was like kept saying like, oh, like we're a D1 club team, which is very different compared to like a high school level, like soccer program, I would say. So obviously I came in a little bit nervous, but then after like all the meetings we've had and just like we like stayed with it through all the years, obviously like the confidence grew and I was like, all right, like these girls are like really awesome. And like, we really felt like kind of like a family, like everyone was just super like supportive and would just come up to you and talk to you and get to know you. And like, obviously our coach is like pretty awesome and like really wants to get to know the girls. And like, I don't know, I just felt like really welcomed, like right away, that was like a huge thing, especially like I would get really nervous. I'm like meeting new people and stuff. So I was like, oh gosh, I'm coming in as like a little freshman and like there's like all these seniors and stuff. Like you just never want to step boundaries or anything. That's just like always like a thought that goes in your mind. But overall I felt like super like really welcomed every single time I played soccer here and like the girls are awesome and it's like really cool to get to know like so many new people.
Yeah. Definitely. And, each team is going to have a different like way about doing practices and scheduling and seasons and stuff. But how would you do you have any other friends that do like additional club sports like outside of soccer or people that
yeah, my roommate actually plays on the club softball team here. So we were both like club athletes. So it's actually kind of funny. We just like always talk about our practices and our games and like whenever we have 2 different seasons because she's in the spring and we're in the fall. So, I mean, yeah, we're both like pretty busy and like we kind of laugh about because we're always getting injured. So we always go to the trainers together. But,
oh no.
Yeah, I know. But it's just funny. But yeah, she loves it too. And like the teams are definitely different, obviously. But I mean, we both love it. And we always just talk about like how much we love it actually. So it's pretty cool, I'd say.
Yeah. What do you say like the level of commitment for club sports, like in the experiences that you've had personally and like hearing from other people, like how would you kind of gauge where the commitment lies like within like your college experience?
Yeah. I mean, I would say obviously the commitment level is different for every sport. Because they just have like different trainings or like lifting and conditioning sessions. Because I know like for softball, she has like conditioning and lift like 3 times a week kind of thing, but they're not always mandatory. It's just good to go. But for soccer, I mean, I would say the commitment level is it's hard to explain because you want, like, it is committed. It is definitely a commitment. You want to show up, you want to be there, and you really want to, like, be there for your team and, like, play and, like, show 100% at every game and practice and stuff like that. But I would say it is, compared to a D1 level, the stress level is a lot lower, which is also why I kind of chose to play club sports all these years. Because obviously you need to be committed to go and, like, show a face at all these practices and stuff, but also, like, missing things, it's not the end of the world. You don't get penalized or anything for it. But yeah, I guess I would say, like, the commitment level is you want to be committed, but it's at a lower stress level, which is just really nice because you can balance out your work and school and just social life altogether. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
But
I feel like for a lot of the club sports teams, and there are some, like, our club hockey's teams for men,
Yeah.
like, they're at, like, a divisional level,
Right,
technically.
right,
So, like, they
yeah.
obviously have, like, a higher load of, like, what they need to do
Mhm.
and their commitments. But for, for club sports and, like, everything you get involved in, it's
Yeah.
really what you make of it. Like, the time that you put into it is
Mhm.
what you're going to get out of it.
Exactly.
And I have said this so many times on this podcast, and I need somebody to just keep like tallying every time I
Yeah.
say that, because I feel like that's just my one, like, yeah, like, you're going to love something that you do.
Mhm.
Like, if you put your heart into it, like, if
Right.
you're there and you want to show up, like, you're going to have the best time. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
go the way that you want it, like, in your head specifically to go,
Mhm.
but, like, you will get more out of it that you'll realize, like, later on than,
100%.
if you're just like, oh, like, I don't feel like going. Like,
Yeah.
academics, that's different. Like,
Right.
I think a big thing for club sports, especially something that we've experienced with, like,
Mhm.
our team, is that if, you feel like you have a really big academic load and, like,
Yeah.
you can't make a practice, or, like, I have a conflict, I can't come to a game. Like,
Yep.
that, it enhances your experience, but it's more of, like, an understanding environment.
Yeah.
Not to say that D1 athletics isn't understanding.
Yeah.
I think they're just more on a stricter
Oh, yeah.
need to be basis. Like, they literally make their school schedules
Right.
around practice, lift, games. Like,
Exactly.
for us, like, we have girls running
Mhm.
from, lab, or if
Yeah.
they want to come, or like, I'm coming, like, throwing my shin guards
Yeah.
on as I'm running down
Yeah.
the field.
Yeah,
But-
so academics are definitely first, I would say, when
Yes.
it comes to club sports. I mean, yeah, you want to be committed, but academics are definitely a big thing, especially that our coach understands as well. But yeah, that's what I would say.
I think that's that's
Mhm.
also, like, really refreshing too,
Mhm.
because
It
I think a
is.
lot of people get nervous about doing
Mhm.
something like a team, like having that experience in the back of their head from high school. Because I know, like, especially if you did, like, the high school sport and then you had your travel sport afterwards.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep.
Soccer in high school in the fall, it was like, okay, wake up, go to school
Mhm.
from, I don't even know, 8 to 3. That was elementary school. 7 to 2.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Haven't been there in a while. You have practice from, like, 2 to 4:45.
Mhm.
And then you're like, okay, snack time. That's 15 minutes. Then you
Yep.
have, like, 5 to 7:30.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're home at 8 o'clock and you're like, what
Yep.
just happened?
You're eating dinner and then starting homework,
You're
and you're
like-
like, all right, starting all over the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, being able to, like,
Mhm.
still have the experience of your sport, maybe
Yeah.
not at that much of, like, a level of, like, go, go, go.
Right.
But, like, you still have it, which
Yeah,
is nice.
which is so nice. I agree.
So within, club sports being an opportunity to get involved in student life,
Mhm.
it is, an aspect that a lot of people will come in and, like, try out. Maybe it's not for them, but,
Mhm.
you still meet a lot of people. Like, I swear, like, so many people on, like, our team are, like, people that I've talked to within their teams on club sports. Like, they're meeting people that they would have never met
Right.
in any other circumstance.
Yeah.
And, they share experiences with people that have one common interest. It's
Mhm.
their sport, or that they want to be on a team, or they want to learn a sport. Kind of with that in mind, is there anything that being within the club sports program is there anything that it has given you that you don't think you probably would have found in any, like, and if you
Yeah.
didn't do it?
Right. I would definitely say friendships for sure. Like you're just saying, like, I always think about this all the time, but, like, I just remember, like, my freshman year coming in, like, meeting everyone was absolutely amazing. But I just remember, like, I became really, really close and, like, best friends with our goalie, who was, I think, a junior at the time. And I don't know why we just, like, hit it off so fast, but we just came, like, best buds within, like, the first, like, a week when, like, tryouts were. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just like brings you to new people and new relationships that you never thought like would happen. Cause I was like, oh, like again, like the scared little freshman. And I'm like, I'm best friends with now like a upperclassman. And I'm like, this is just crazy. Like it was fun. But I definitely would say like I've met such incredible people, like including you and like everyone else, like just playing club soccer. And I'm like, you know, like I'm so happy that I did because it just like makes you just meet all these new people of all different grades. And you're just like, all right, like it's just kind of cool to like talk to these like other people other than just like, because you're just constantly with your roommates or just like other people that you might know that came from like your hometown or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely helped like broaden to meet new people and it's just been really awesome. That's what I would say. But
yeah. I mean, like you know this, but I met my roommate for the past 3 years from the first club soccer practice. We were in the same like, you know, everyone has like those little huddles that they put next to their bags. And we were just like, what's your name? Oh, cool. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Great. Awesome. Do you want to get lunch? Like that's, you know, that's how it
just
starts.
happens. Yeah. That's awesome.
You know, it's our coach's favorite story to like say like, these two met here. Like I helped them like make this happen. I'm like, you're so right.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like one way to like meet people that you never met. Like I don't think our paths probably would have crossed if we didn't do soccer. Yeah. And that's just like wild to me because
it is wild.
You're like like the other girls that have grown up with us. Like we've had like specifically for our team, and I'm sure this is the same for a lot of other teams that are, have the people that come back every single year. Like we've grown up together.
Yeah, we have.
In a way, like in this sport and also like, you know, in college, like there's a whole group of us that have been there since, you know, we were 18, 19 years old. And now we're on the brink of grad, which makes me sad.
So sad.
That was a rhyme. Wow.
Just the brink of grad.
Makes me poetic up in here. I'm going to put that on my graduation cap. Anyways, so I think that's just really cool. And I think
it is cool.
Like being an athlete too, like being a student athlete, like having to have that, you know, the secondary time commitment of like tournaments on weekends or like we're traveling far or like, okay, practice could be from 10 to midnight. Yeah. Who knows? Like,
oh gosh. Yeah.
Like, club sports fitting in that time on there. Except I do love the 10 to midnight.
I think too. I do too. Except I always had an 8 a.m. the next day. No. So it would drive me crazy. But I mean, it was worth it. It was fun.
Yeah.
It's a good like, stress reliever.
Yeah, so no, like, literally. But like also the people that lived on campus, this is so like off topic, but like after practice would be over and then it's just like all of us congregating and like drop off at each dorm and then like, okay, good night, see you later.
Bye guys.
But yeah, I think it holds so many like great memories. I'm sure everybody that's involved like in sports can say that. And like you still get like the experience that you had in high school. You don't have to let go of it.
Yeah.
It's a different experience.
Exactly.
And I think that's really cool.
It is really cool.
And maybe this is just like thinking about like how things evolve. Like, how do you feel about like club sports? Like the team that you're a part of can change every single year and that environment like changes as well. I mean, for when we were freshmen, like the team environment that we had is a lot different than the team environment they have now. Yeah. But like, it also like grows in the same way. Like, how do you see, like, the growth that you've had just being, like, an athlete on this team has had, like, on your college experience?
I guess, I'm trying to think about that one.
I know. It's, like, it's an interesting question because it's not, like, we're, you know, we are, you can't even say we are a sport because D1 athletes are not just their sport. And that's what we talked about in the segment beforehand.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like I've grown in like a lot of like leadership capabilities as well in soccer, and I don't know if I've maybe become more confident like in my play or like I've learned so many things from people that I play with. Like I'm in awe of how people play like on our team. Like I don't know, it's just like an interesting, like I don't know, like being an athlete in high school was always a part of my identity, and I feel like it also enhanced a lot of qualities that I had as a person. Like, do you like feel the same like within?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, I obviously feel like more of like a leader more than ever than I did beginning. I also feel like I feel more like empathetic for people, if that makes sense. Because I just like, as you like get older, you're kind of like, all right, like I want to know more about these girls, and like I want to know like if they ever need like someone to talk to, like just like come to us. And like since we're like the upperclassmen now, like I just want to like I don't know, I just want to feel like because I know what it's like struggling like as an underclassman. It's like, oh my gosh, you're at a brand new like university, like it's like a lot of people, it's like scary classes, and you don't really know where you're going. So it's like I feel like pretty like empathetic for like the younger kids, especially, and everyone, like anyone who's just like ever needs someone to talk to. So I guess like those are two kind of like characteristics that I've kind of grown with. But I guess too, it's just like more confident too, like as the years have gone, just because you like get into the routine of how practices are, like how the tournaments are, and like traveling to all these games. And like, I mean, like we play like pretty big name schools as well. Like it was like, oh my gosh, the first time ever playing like Yale. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're playing Yale. But yeah, I guess just like the confidence has grown, and just like in like the leadership also, it's like I just feel more like I just want to get to know everyone as well too. So just more like welcoming, I guess.
Yeah. Building the foundation, definitely. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all of your personal insights. So kind of something that I always end on with like our segments is advice, since our whole thing, we're showing our experiences and hopefully our experiences, help someone possibly create their own experiences or do the thing that will bring them to, 4 years later being like, I'm so glad that I did that. So what advice do you think you would give students who are thinking of doing club sports, like whether it be here or at a different university? Like, what would you say?
I would say 100% join a club sport for sure. I mean, I think, again, like just showing up here, and I was obviously nervous to join a club and all this stuff, but like no matter what the sport is or what school you're at, I would say definitely join, because it just brings you to such amazing opportunities. Like, again, like even if you haven't even played the sport before, just try it out. It doesn't hurt to try things out. And then if you have, then it, like you get to stay with something that you're really passionate about. And yeah, just wherever you are, like it's a great stress reliever with school, and like you just meet such amazing people and like build new friendships that could probably last a lot, like a lifetime, I would say. So I think joining a club sport is probably the best thing I've ever done, I would say.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you, Gianna.
Thank you so much
for your time, your insight, and for those out there that have found this podcast and video. I'm so grateful for you. But if you want to learn more about Sacred Heart's club program specifically, we have a kind of like overall Instagram that's called @𝚑𝚑_club_sports. And then if you wanted to see more like rosters, like they have like game times or just like more basic information about club sports, you can go to www.𝚑𝚑_club_sports.com. All right, so we've heard from both a Division I player, we've heard from a club sports player, but what about intramural? So I've actually participated in a few intramural games throughout my time here at Sacred Heart. Yes, they were soccer, a reoccurring theme. I am a soccer player. I've always been a soccer player, and I was lucky enough to be able to continue it in college. And I feel within my time as intramural, like in playing in games that were available or signing up for different teams or rosters, I think it really gives students a very laid back perspective and like opportunity to participate in a sport, but not have the, commitment for a season, whether that's like a club sport. Some club sports do like training outside of their season, but really for club sports and the experiences that I've had, it's like when you're in that season, it is a commitment that is also intertwined with your life. And it's also very laid back outside of Division I sports, where your schedule is, surrounded by your sports schedule. So it's really just like the ability to do something you love or try something new. And, you really get to meet new people. You get to have a new experience. It's a fun memory. Every single game that I can remember of intramural is hilarious. I have had so much fun playing. And I think people that want to play but like don't know what level they want to play at, it's something very easy for you to get involved with and just have some fun. It's very good, like stress reliever, like Gianna was saying about club sports. And I think you should totally try it if you're interested. So like all sports, intramural sports will have seasons. They have specific times where they're offered to sign up and play. Like for students that go here, we'll always get emails from people within the Bobby Valentine Center saying, hey, we have signups for basketball intramurals. Go to this website, sign up, create a team if you want, and we'll be playing Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. It might be different every time. I just totally made that up off the top of my head, but there'll always be like a specific time that you're playing. So like you'll know if you can go or not, if that makes sense. And, you can sign up with friends, or you can even sign up alone if it's something that you want to do, but you don't know anybody else who wants to do it with you. You can always sign up and they'll put you on a team. And that's a really great way to meet people. I know it's really popular for other organizations like Greek life, especially the fraternities, when like flag football will come up and, they'll create a team from their fraternity and get to play each other and just like have a really good time. Just another way to hang out outside of other organization responsibilities and all that stuff. Having intramural is great because it gives options. And I'm going to quote my dad here because he likes to say that he loves options. And options are a good thing. It's also never too late to get involved in something here. So if you do want to play a sport and, maybe you missed the club sport, or like, you really don't want to do divisional, but they have the opportunity to play that sport at an intramural level, definitely do it. It's super fun. I feel that the students that have gotten involved in it have very positive memories from it. So like everything, it does not hurt to try. So if you're interested, that goes for anywhere. If there's an intramural program, I have friends who our freshman year, their floor signed up for a dodgeball tournament. And I don't think half of them have ever played dodgeball before, and they won the tournament, but it was such a good memory for them. So it's a cute little tidbit there. But for students at Sacred Heart that want to get involved in intramural, or if you're new coming to Sacred Heart and you kind of want to learn more about the intramural program and see like, oh, is this like a fit for me, something to get me going at Sacred Heart? The way that you can find that is on the Sacred Heart website under student life. There's a subsection called fitness, recreation, and sports. And then there's another subsection under that called intramurals. And it'll give you all the information that you need to sign up with that. And yeah, wow, friends. Okay, huge episode today. Thank you for sticking with me if you listened to the whole thing. I hope that you found something useful, informational, maybe even got you a little bit more excited to do sports here, or, anything along those lines. So I will be back next week with a brand new topic, brand new guests. You know the deal. And in the meantime, keep doing you, keep thriving, all that fun stuff. And we will talk soon. Bye-bye.